Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about culture, because obviously we hear an awful lot about culture nowadays. You've got the various forms of culture war going on at the moment. You've got people describing culture in different ways, and especially in the kind of public sphere, and the kind of political sphere and the arts and whatever else. You've got an awful lot of references to culture or cultures, and they don't really. Um, People will throw the word around again with an awful lot of um, kind of interpretation on their own part, and there won't be an awful lot of definition necessarily to what they're saying or what they're defining as a culture. And so I wanted to just talk about this because this was something that, especially when I was doing management, was something that had to be addressed with us when we were talking about it. Because obviously you get workplace cultures, but there are two forms of culture that stand out specifically. I mean, there are three overall. Probably more definitions than this, but there are three overall. One of which pertains to culturing of things like bacteria and tissue, which we won't be talking about. But then we've got culture in regards to the manifestation of human intellectual achievement, or the music and art and literature and all of these wonderful things that humans have made over the course of the development of civilization as it stands today. And in regards to that, those things can still cause an awful lot of friction, but most of them are just artifacts or creations that are sat there and can be analysed and pulled to pieces and all the rest of it. But most of them, when you boil them right down, it's just a person that's decided to do a thing. And so they're going to be subjective, pardon me, because they're going to mean something entirely different depending on where you come from, or where you're coming at it from, rather. The person who created that work is going to have a very different view of it, a very different idea of it, because it came from their mind, as any other different person that's come to take a look at it. A good example of that, and why I don't really want to spend too much time talking about this particular side of things, is Stephen King with his book The Shining. From his mind, it came out as a very specific set of events and the way that things unfold, and the characters were in a very certain way. But then when it comes across to Stanley Kubrick's film adaptation, he disliked it because Stanley Kubrick had taken an entirely different spin on it. He had taken different things from the book than the things that King felt he put into the book. And as a result, because it's so subjective, there's no right or wrong on those things. And it becomes a case of, those are there for everybody to appreciate. There's no two ways about that. But then the kind of culture that stands out that's important is the idea of culture that pertains to the workplace or to a civilization or to societies or lifestyles, whatever. And that is culture as the ideas, customs, behaviours, and so on of different groups of people. And when I was going through this, when I was doing various forms of management training, and even when I was doing some of my corporate coaching stuff, the culture side of things was discussed very much as the behaviours and the customs and the ideas that are put forward are usually trickled down from the people at the top, because those people are the ones that choose the direction of the overall group. So if you're thinking about this in regards to a business, you've got the person at the top, the boss, who is calling the shots, he's making the decisions, and he's choosing the working practices. And as a result, the people that he hires in are all going to have to conform in one way or another to what he's saying, what he's doing, and how he's doing it. And as a result, that generates a culture, and it generates a set of ideas that people are going to carry on, customs, routines, social behaviours. The way that you're interacting with customers is very much a good example of social behaviours that are kind of generated through culture. If you've got a very kind of close-knit group of people that is willing to support one another in their store, for instance, and they're able to make sure that they want to make sure that everyone else does well and they all get rewarded well and so on and so forth, then it's likely that when you say you need to provide good customer service to ensure that no one slips behind, they will cover for each other. They will make sure that there is no negative customer service provided to the best of each individual's ability. There's stuff like that. But then you can take this idea of culture as these customs and ideas and social behaviours that trickle down from the top to the bottom and then get propagated amongst the people towards the lower end of the chain. You can take that and apply it to any real group of people, because almost every group of people within human society, to one extent or another, has or at least a small collective of leaders. So you could take this idea of ideas and customs and social behaviours to a cult, to a religion, to a political movement, to any other form of workplace, to a sports team. You can take these ideas or this general definition and apply it to all of these different things, and as a result, all of these things come from the people at the top. All of these ideas, all of these customs, all these social behaviours will trickle down from the people deciding direction. Now, the thing is, that puts an awful lot of responsibility and an awful lot of power on those people at the top. And in regards to your more general leadership and things like that, within a workplace especially, or within some kind of formal movement, then yes, those people having that at the top and trying to ensure that things trickle down well so that everyone is aware and everyone is on the same page and has a level of agreement, that's kind of important to keep things running effectively. However, the problem is when you have people who are irresponsible or who don't realise that they have that amount of power and responsibility at the top of movements. Even if they have been elected to those roles by a collective, they are then put into the position of power and control over those others by generating culture and by pushing ideas. In which case, this is where I feel that you've got a lot of problems around the spikes in hate crime and things like that have happened after Brexit or after the election of Trump. And granted, some of the numbers are very foggy at the moment, because you've got people who are deliberately trying to put the other side down by faking reports and things like that, which is just really shitty behaviour. It only ever detracts from the people who are actually needing the help or actually in trouble. But the people who have stirred up, for example, if you take Trump or Farage, and they've done an awful lot to stir up a lot of nationalist sentiment to prompt people to follow along with what they're saying. Yeah, a lot of fear, a lot of apprehension and anger and hate and mistrust and all those kind of things. All those negative emotions have been fed, and as a result, those things that have been fed, the ideas, the behaviours that have accompanied them, now since they gained some validation after the results of the various votes that took place, that has created a culture that has then propagated amongst the masses that have been trickled down to, and has carried on with those behaviours, possibly exaggerating them into damaging ones at times. And I don't necessarily feel that was what those people intended to happen. At least I'd like to think it wasn't. But they weren't, seemingly, even though they were in leadership positions, even though they had been there for some substantial period of time to one extent or another, their operational understanding of how the kind of generation of culture works just didn't seem to be there, and as a result you had a lot of negative kickback from what happened afterwards. And so where am I going with this? Well, ultimately, the thing that I want to say is that culture may, like the ideas and customs and social behaviours for cultures to develop may come from the top to the bottom, but it is the individuals who can all think for themselves in that majority at the bottom that then continue to churn those ideas round and spread them out. Those are the people who have the decision to either go along with it or not. And as a result, what it comes down to is you need to be objective about the ideas and the social behaviours and the things that you're seeing around you. You need to analyse them, you need to think about them in a critical sense, compare them to the facts of what's going on as well, and then you need to either decide if you want to go with it or not. And I realised that a lot of people will just get swept up by social movements because we're pack animals, we're herd animals, it's what we do, we're very social, we go with the flow. But you only make your movement, your group, your culture, whatever, stronger if those ideas and customs and social behaviours are all taken on board and analysed by each individual first. It finds all of the weaknesses so that they can be removed. And even if an entire idea, an entire set of customs or whatever have been proven or agreed on to be weak and damaging, then you can get rid of the whole thing if you've got that group, every single person trying their best to look at what's in front of them, analyse it, and then move forward. And so that's my message here. Have a think about everything that's coming to you. Question everything. Be curious. And in regards to the cultures that you're a member of, these groups with their ideas and their customs and whatever else, you need to ensure that you are aware of what those are and why they are, how they function, what's the point of them, all those things. Because if you're not, if you're just going along with a chant because that's what everyone else has said, and you're not really thinking about the words, or you're not really thinking about why that chant was put forward, then there's a good chance that you're being roped into something, or you're doing something that you're not really truly in favour of, or that might be harmful to you. And obviously this topic will also bring on to, in regards to culture generally, will also bring on to things like cultural appropriation, which I will get onto in a different video, because it's another topic that needs to be, in my idea, kind of put down, because it's a set of words meaning one thing that has then been brought across and attached to something completely different. But it's like, anyway, regardless of that, cultures, what are your guys' thoughts here? Because, you know, obviously you've got workplace cultures, you've got the bigger cultures as well. All of them have their own ideas, their own activities and behaviors and things like that. Please, you know, what are your thoughts on these? You know, should we be more uniform in our approach, and all customs and all social behaviors and ideas should be scrubbed down first, so that we have a good look at them and work out what they are before you then move forward with what you agree with and what you don't? Or do you feel that would be dull and boring, and just getting swept up by social movements or by various other groups is a thing that you just want to keep going with, and you don't want, you know, anything else? You know, please let me know. It's interesting to see how many people are interested in the more analytical approach, and how many people just want to go along with it, because life is nothing without the feelings and without all of the just being swept up in the excitement. But otherwise, if you found what I've been saying here interesting, or you've agreed with it or enjoyed it, then please drop me a like. Otherwise, please subscribe for more, and I will see you in the video tomorrow. Take care, guys.